Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This is it. This is our final Arrow review, the episode called Fadeout. And this is really our coda to the Arrow side of Crisis on Infinite Earths. And simply put, they really did go and pull out all the stops to try to make this a memorable episode. A real tribute to the character of Oliver Queen. I mean, Arrow is what started the CW universe. It's really what got DC having some serious success in live-action TV. I mean, before, it had kind of been DC did well in animation on TV, and it was Marvel that was really doing really well in the movies. Some of the DC cinematic efforts in recent years had not been so great. If you've been a long time viewer of mine, you know how badly I trashed Batman versus Superman. DC, of course, in recent years seems to have done, movie-wise, been doing a better job of getting its act together. But the fact remains that the CW-verse did a lot for DC in getting them live-action fans outside of people who might not have been into the movies. I mean, the Arrowverse has really been a big winner, and its influence in making the live-action movies cannot be underestimated. And I do think we need to take a minute and think back to just when this all got started. Like they were wrapping up the Christopher Nolan Batman movies when they were making Arrow, the first episode when the season was filmed. All these people were going like, "Is this set in the Nolanverse?" And I remember somebody asking that one time, and some guy going, "Oh yeah, of course it's set in the Nolanverse," and he genuinely believed that. And we're all like, "No, dude, they've already said it's not set in the Nolanverse, you dummy." But yeah, that was 8 years ago, and boy, a lot's changed in the Arrowverse. A lot's changed in my own life. It's hard not to look back at all of that and feel nostalgia and loss. I mean, entertainment always mirrors real life in various ways, and just like Arrow and the CW-verse, my life has had its own ups and downs. And I'm glad that Oliver was able to be remembered in such a way that it really did resonate. He is, in the comics, it's traditionally established that sort of the modern superhero age kind of begins when Superman makes his first appearance. And from there, it's all the other major DC characters. But in the Arrowverse, of course, it's going to be Oliver as Green Arrow. Now, we know from the timeline of this universe, like from the 1940s, they did have superheroes before then, and that is kind of also how it worked in the DC universe. Their superheroes were kind of a World War II thing, and then they more or less faded away after the McCarthy hearings, and then occasionally popped up between then. But for literally decades in the comics, the idea is that superheroes and supervillains were an extraordinarily rare and uncommon thing after World War II. In the modern, quote-unquote, whatever the modern age is, the appearance of Superman kicking it off. But, as we said, in the Arrowverse, that is going to Oliver Queen. And I do like that it is a very stark contrast where, of course, Superman is essentially the king of superheroes. Green Arrow is one of the most human of the DC characters. And yes, I know there was technically a thing where he was revealed to have, at one point, to have metahuman abilities that made him a super good archer. That's old continuity, so we're just going to forget about that since that was a stupid idea anyway. But yeah, Oliver really is where all of this started. There's no denying that those first episodes of Arrow, where everybody was like, is this going to flop, or is this going to be good? And it took Arrow that first season a while to find its legs, but it all ultimately worked out, and now look at what we have. I mean, we just had a live-action 5-episode Crisis on Infinite Earth story. Live-action Crisis. Arguably the most famous comic story of all time. Easily the most famous DC story of all time. And while it was condensed and all of that, it was a really amazing tribute to, you know, all of the various DC media that's popped up over basically like the last 30 years, even longer, really, with the appearance of Burt Ward. I mean, literally, a humongous shout out to decades of comics history and, you know, fun. I mean, sure, not everything in there was 100% perfect, and even the shows they not made nods to were not perfect either. But you know, that's the nature of the beast and the nature of life. Nothing's perfect. What I'm really trying to say is, though, is that this really has been a great journey. And yes, there are certainly some flaws in this episode, and it sort of seemed like a little too good to be true at times, especially with the whole thing with Moira being saved by Oliver tinkering with the timeline. But you know what? I am perfectly prepared to sort of let a lot slide because, you know, hey, why not? Let's go on a high note and let's really put a smile on everybody's face. Well, Moira's alive. Boom. Tommy's alive. And they do point out that, yes, Oliver did have to let some people die, people who, if he hadn't let die, he wouldn't have become the man that he was. And none of this would have been possible, and I'm okay with that. But still, like, seeing all of that, you know, kind of having Emiko be able to have a happy ending. You know, getting another scene with Barry and Felicity. Things apparently working out between Nyssa and Sarah. Yeah, again, they're cranking up the happy ending more or less. I mean, as happy as it can be after the main character has died. But, you know, I can live with that. And I do like how they have set up things that these characters can pop up again in future CW shows. I mean, they've got some stuff going on with Roy and Thea. They get their happy ending, and again, I'm sure they'll turn up from time to time. The Al Ghul sisters are out there. Everybody, you know, who's an important player in the Arrowverse potentially can come back. And I'm sure that behind the scenes they're kind of thinking like, come on, you know, there's got to be some way we've got to have Stephen Amell come back and pop up once in a while, even if we just do a flashback or something like that. And I'm fine with that. You know, Stephen Amell has, you know, moved on. He's already agreed to star in like this wrestling-based show that I've heard about. I think it's called Heel. Okay, it doesn't really sound like my cup of tea, but whatever. I am excited though. The Arrowverse and Arrow itself had its ups and downs, but it really did help bring something very unique and very wonderful to television. And, you know, this is, as I've said before, a real golden age for us as fans. When I look back at, you know, being a comics fan in like the 90s, when really as much a highlight you could kind of hope for back then, the real highlights of those times were stuff like the Fox animated Spider-Man and X-Men TV shows. The idea that we would ever have anything like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Arrowverse, all the cool animation that we get now. The whole thing with comics being very mainstream. I mean, like, all over the world, you got people walking around in Captain America and Iron Man t-shirts. We won, guys. The nerdy people won. And I guess for those people who, who, you know, weren't around in the dark times before this, when, you know, like, you still read comics? Like, what are you, 10? You know, those days, it's a little hard to wrap your head around, but for someone my age and my background as a fan, yeah, this is an amazing time to be a geeky person, and especially to be a comics fan. It really is. Not everything's perfect, and it never will be. And God knows we fans will never be completely satisfied with anything. But c'est la vie. In any case, Arrow was a great ride, a great adventure. And I'm going to be happy. I'm sad to see the show go, but it was time. We've still got the Flash, and I'm quite sure the CW verse is not going anywhere anytime soon. Batwoman is looking promising. We've got Stargirl coming. Again, that's another one that I'm pretty interested in. Yeah, guys, this is a great trick, a great little trek to have been on, and I'd like to thank all of you for sharing this review adventure with me. Again, I do apologize for how the schedule has gotten messed up the last few months with death in my family and the new year and all of that. And just some other things that I've been focusing on differently in my life. Yeah, I have let this one slide, but we're going to be trying to do a better job for here on out for the rest of the year. I am very excited to see what's going to be happening with the Flash when it comes back. But anyway, once again, guys, thank you for coming on this journey with me. And I hope you will continue to watch my reviews in the future. Until next time then, take care and have a good one.